The Jamaican Linguist, I Remember When, by me, Stacy Nemard. Part 1, Childhood Memories. Imagine a sun-drenched island, crisscross rivers, a 7-mile stretch of beautiful white sandy beaches, sea of green scenery, and fun-loving people fueled by the motto, no problem. Paradise found, right? Well, not quite. This picturesque scene of Jamaica was not my world, but my world had its own beauty. I remember my childhood days growing up in Jamaica as if it were yesterday. My memories are filled with smoky skies from Grandpa Mayu's burning of his sugarcane field in preparation for harvesting. The smell of sugarcane being burnt and harvested was a scene to behold. This was the only time there was snow in Jamaica. The fresh black ash slowly rained delicately like snowflakes from the sky, accumulating on anything that was outside. This Jamaican snow would fall on my grandmother Joyce's 2-bedroom wooden house in the fishing community of Broughton in the district of Little London, or under Granny Rachel's or Rachie's 8-bedroom wooden house located on the main road of a community called Bay Road, also in Little London. Little London, according to the locals, got its name from the forefathers who visited from London, England. On entering Little London from Savannah Lamar, they noticed a Baptist church at the top of a hill which bare a resemblance to the Church of England. But what really sealed the name was the river that flowed through the square at the bottom of the hill, reminded them of the Thames River in England. Thus the name given as Little London. The snow of Jamaica was and always will be a striking scene of my Jamaica. I was a free-spirited creature who was unrestricted to roam and protected by everyone who knew me. I was only 10 years old when I discovered my adventurous and spontaneous self. At that time, I was a tomboy like Tarzan in the jungle. I would climb and slide up trees whenever I got the chance. The Jamaican trees, such as the ackee, June plum, basquam, gaty, stringy, graham, julie mango, nesberry of course, guinep, or star apple were my targets. The world was my playground. I was hopping on tractors through the luscious swaying greenery of the sugarcane field. Sometimes I would even go bird hunting with Daddy and his friends, with a shotgun as my companion. We would set spring straps and tie knot that was made from twisting grass to make a trap, along with using slingshots. Some days, I would steal a ride from Miss Miriam's donkey while she sold her freshly harvested produce of pumpkin, dasheen, yam, and green bananas. On other days, like the morning rooster calls, "Crook-a-dur-a-dur," the sound of Miss Cathy's Honda 50 bike alerts not just me, but the entire community that it was time to make our way to the front of our yards. Personally, it was to collect the prized goldfish she selected just for me. For others, it was to make purchases, pay balances owed, and credit anew. Not only did my body run wild, but my mind and mouth did as well. I was using other local vernaculars, just like the artist Louise Bennett, whom explained the seasons of life of a Jamaican born and raised. Oh, how I waited anxiously and patiently for the weekend to come. as only then did my mental and physical exploration soar as I dreamt of my reward from hunting cows. Mr. Washington had cows, and it was a norm for them to escape from the cow pen and wandered onto my family's property. However, this was not much of a problem because Grandpa Mayu would use the cow dung as a source of fertilizer for the young sugarcane plants. There was always a reward to be had from hunting strayed cows, which was a norm for me as the reward was great. The quest to capture a 300-pound cow went something like this: rope in hand, along with sticks to direct the cow when captured back to the cow's pen. I thought of all the bulla, cement material to make clothes, my favorite suit being a gosha shorts and a spaghetti strap blouse that I have been clad in from the age of 5, or ribbons of many colors to adorn my hair, or crochet thread to make dolls and placemats for my mommy's whatnot or furniture, along with church hats. All these I could buy with 500 Jamaican dollars reward money. After all, it was the early 90s. Merchandises were inexpensive and $500 to go a very long way. There I was, alone in the morass, running down cows with ropes just like how I saw it in the John Wayne cowboy shows. The only thing missing was Miriam's donkey. The task, though murderous, was an accomplished mission. The sound of laughter echoes in the distance. Who else but my mother watching me as I pulled the cow into the pen? I remember smiling at her, pretending to not be in pain, all battered as though the cow had given me a good lashing. Black and bruised, I didn't mind, as my eyes were on the prize. This was my very first hard-working experience and getting rewarded for my efforts. In the midst of being an extraordinary cowgirl, I glanced and noticed my hands looked as if they were forced hard against a sharp surface, serrated and bloody. A feeling of torture came over me as I realized something was lost forever. A ring Miss Lill, an old lady who lived alone, had given me for keeping her company at night before she passed away. This was not the first time I had lost something dear to me. At age 7, going on 8, Hurricane Gilbert dilly-dallied through Jamaica like an unrestrained tornado. It was a norm in Jamaica for the surviving community members to come out and observe damages after a natural disaster. My cherry tree stood not only naked but extremely violated for loss of vitality. Walking through the community observing the damages endured by residents were really heart-wrenching. For instance, Miss Anita, a poor old hearty withered woman, lived in a house as big as a coop. Her house vanished as if it never existed, as if it were my dollhouse. Looking on and approaching the corner of Moss Gosnell's shop, I found that it was bolted secure and was saved. In addition, Pamisita, a very heavy-set woman, suddenly appeared to be taking a shower in the open yard, and without fair, she slams her breasts over her shoulders. It was my first time knowing that breasts could grow so huge and droopy. I immediately placed my hands over my eyes and hoped that my breast would never ever look like hers. She turned and smiled at my reaction. In the midst of all this, a white tourist man venturing out on his trailed motorcycle gazed in awe. Minutes later, a piece of clothing item fell from his transport on the road. This is when my first lesson on having a good character and ethics was taught to me by my mother. I remember picking up his pants and running inside my house to tell my mother what I had just found. She listened and in a flash pointed her fingers and directed me out the road to wait for the tourist to return his pants. I staggered for a moment as the content of the pants pocket was very rewarding, filled with a lot of Jamaican $50. After much frustration from waiting, the tourist finally appeared. I waved his pants at him with all my might. He approached me looking surprised yet appreciative, and with a smile, he rewarded me $50. Clovis, the ice cream man, was the first to see that $50, not the soup man soupy, nor the fudge man fudgy. After this, my teen years steadily approached, and with it came chastisements. My early teen years were more experimental. Uncle Prenge, as we called him, decided to teach my cousins and I how to drive the Lada instead of the escort in the sugarcane field. Bobo, Min Min, Jeru, and I would take turns. Soon it was my turn, but I was too slow in switching from clutch to gas. Min Min went as far as moving the gear stick. Jeru seemed like a natural. That is until he swerved near a pond. Cousin Bobo drove straight through the sugarcane field, squeezed past the almond tree, and ended up in Mas Neville's backyard. He nearly hit Neville's wooden house off its foundation. The instructions given to us that day were like this. Put the car in neutral, press on the clutch slowly, then remove foot slowly, then press on the gas a little and slowly, put it in gear and go. Boy, driving stiff shift car was really hard. I don't think any of us really knew how to implement those steps, but I sure do remember them, and one does not have to wonder why. When I was 15, I would regularly slink out of the house to go to reflection and compulsion disco clubs. Dusk could not come too soon. There would be 3 to 4 concrete blocks lined up outside my window in a ladder position, and a dinner knife to loosen the window panes so to remove the glass portion without issues. When that was done, all I had to do next was to wait for 10 p.m. One Saturday night will forever linger in my brain as it was the night half pint my sister told on me quite a while. We had a lot of nicknames, oh yes. I remember returning from reflection one early Sunday morning. Going through the window of my bedroom, I wondered to myself why my room seemed extra dark. I slowly replaced the window panes back into position, turned and tiptoed on my bed, which was located directly at the corner window. My heart went in my mouth as the lights went on. Like a mannequin, I froze for a quick second. I wanted to jump, dash, and splurt back through the window. Alas, I could not. Daddy stood firm and in his somewhat drunken voice staggered out one of my nicknames, Ranga. And in his native language he said, "You and the belt here," which of course meant, "You and this belt here." He had brandished the cowskin belt, ready to whiplash. He reminded me of Principal Miss Dobson of Unity Primary School. The only difference was, she uttered the question, "Which hand first?" I started speaking to myself. I told myself I need a plan. I am not taking a beating tonight. Most houses in rural Jamaica were built to accommodate multiple generations living together. My family's house was no different. Based off of this, I figured out my escape route instantly. As Daddy approached me with the bell to strike a slap, I noticed Granny Rachie's room door was open. I made a U-turn on my bed, dashed into Granny's room, and slammed her door shut. Nervous and giggling at the same time, Daddy started to shout for me to come for my beating. Granny started to cuss at him to leave me alone. It settled at her words of, "Who can't hear will feel," meaning one day I will learn a lesson from not doing the right thing. The next day, I could not wait to tell my cousins how I made an escape of a fine beating. They all marveled at my escape. Later that day, it was time to take a shower and break from gallivanting in the yard. The bathroom was an outside one. At the time, Daddy was building a concrete bathroom and workmen were ever present. And as a little girl, I had to be really careful not to show myself. On approaching the shower area, I looked left and right so I could dash to the sugarcane field if Daddy decided to come out to beat me. It was clear. I entered the shower, removed my clothing piece by piece, turned the shower on, and made sure the zinc door was secured. I had to lift it into place because if not secured, the wind would detach it. At that moment, out of nowhere, my mother came with a bunch of guava switches. She burst into the shower area where I was shut in tight, so there was no escape. This time I wish I was a lizard. And like that, she chats and beats my water-glittered skin until I started a jogging in place. You see, when you get a good Jamaican beating, it feels as if it lasts a long time, although it is a short one. When it came to an end, my lesson was learned. I would never again sneak out of the house and laugh about it. My mother is always the strict type. She makes sure the punishment gets carried out. Daddy, on the other hand, believed that as long as you get your education and not leave your certificate, made him proud, and so one could earn a bly or pass, meaning if you go to school, you must graduate. Remembering those days as a youth, I still makes me laugh uncontrollably. My mother always used my beating as an example for my son, my nieces, and nephew. It is clear that they will have to be good-behaving children if they don't want to receive a guava switch experience. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of our audio. More to come. Stay tuned. If you haven't done so yet, get the book. One love and God bless.